Welcome to Solar Oregon's Comparing Solar Quotes workshop. My name is Nicole, and I am a program manager at the nonprofit Solar Oregon. This is a reoccurring workshop that we've been delivering to home and business owners across our state. We work to provide you as a consumer with the information you need to make good and informed choices as you explore solar and battery storage. Thank you for joining us today. Today, we'll move past the basics of how to go solar and focus on how to read and compare different solar quotes. We'll start by taking a look at the fundamentals of a solar system and how you can expect to see these represented on a quote. Next, we'll take a look at the different elements of a quote and what details to look out for. After that, we'll walk through an example quote to see what it looks like in practice. We'll wrap up by talking about contractor selection and things you may want to consider when selecting a contractor. We're here to get your questions answered, and after the main presentation, we'll have a Q&A session to review any questions that you may have. Please put your questions in the Q&A box. So this is going to be in your toolbar. You can see that there'll be Q&A, and then we're going to use the chat box today just to put helpful links that we reference throughout the webinar. But again, any questions that you may have, go ahead and put those in the Q&A box so that we can get to those after the presentation. So a little bit more about Solar Oregon. Solar Oregon is a 501c3 nonprofit that has worked to encourage solar and storage adoption throughout Oregon since 1979. We do this by providing reliable and impartial consumer education like this workshop. We work to build a clean energy community and also perform outreach and some policy advocacy. Other examples of the work we do are solar showcases, solar tours, solarized campaigns, which are regionally focused short-term events. And we actually have our Go Zero tour coming up in October. And so that showcases homes that are on a path to zero energy and have solar. And all the sites that are on the tour will have videos so you can view the tour virtually. And then beyond those host videos that share a little bit from those homeowners, we will have that in-person tour from 1 to 5 p.m. on October 4th. And so keep a lookout. We'll be releasing more details about that soon. Also, we are a member-based organization at Solar Oregon, so thank you to our members. And if you are interested in becoming a member, you can find out more information on our website or scan the QR code. This workshop series is supported by Energy Trust of Oregon. Energy Trust is an independent nonprofit that was established in 2002 that provides resources to help enable customers of investor-owned utilities in our state to use energy efficiently and also to gain access to renewable energy. They offer key incentives for solar installation and battery storage. So thank you, Energy Trust. For more information about Energy Trust and the incentives they offer, you can check out energytrust.org or go ahead and scan the QR code that is on this slide. I'm also going to put the resources back in the chat just in case you missed those from the beginning of the presentation. So we have some helpful links here. There's also a link to Energy Trust listed out here as well. And just to learn a little bit more about you all, where you're joining from today, we're going to just launch a couple polls. The first one is where you're joining from. So I'll launch that now. And the next poll is going to be a demographics poll. That just helps us see where our education is reaching and who it's reaching. And then we're going to launch another poll here. to just see what your familiarity is with the Energy Trust incentives. Great. Thank you all for taking the time to just share a little bit more about yourselves. We're going to jump right in to the presentation here. And as we mentioned, we do have another webinar that we do frequently, which is the How to Go Solar and Storage workshop. And so in that, we do share a way to connect with contractors who are trade allies in our state. And so if you haven't done this already, maybe you haven't been to the How to Go Solar and Storage workshop, here is that link. It's also in the chat, but here's a QR code that you can sign as well. Or scan as well with your phone. Basically, to access Energy Trust incentives, you do have to work with a Energy Trust trade ally contractor. And these trade ally contractors in our state are rigorously vetted. They tend to be more local companies and have experience installing solar to the specs that are required. So if you haven't already gotten quotes, maybe you don't have any in front of you yet, that is how you can find a quote from a reputable contractor. Great, we're going to jump right into system fundamentals. We cover more of this detail in our How to Go Solar Storage workshop, but just to share again here, this is a diagram of a typical grid-tied solar system. So this means that you are still connected to the utility. And so you would have your solar panels, sometimes called photovoltaic panels. Those would be connected to an inverter or microinverter, which would be connected then to your home through the electric panel. And if you have a grid-tied system, you also get a special bidirectional meter that measures how much energy you send out to the grid that you have produced with your solar, and also measures what you pull from the grid, maybe in times where your solar is producing less than you're consuming. In our state, we have a special agreement to get credit for the energy you export to the grid if you're a grid-tied system. And so that is called net metering. In the way net metering works is that different utilities have different net metering rates. If you're PGE or Pacific Power, and you get a grid-tied system, you have a 1-to-1 rate. And so the net metering year starts in April and runs through March. And so the net metering credits you build up will roll over year to year, or sorry, month to month. So net metering credits roll over month to month. But at the end of that net metering year in March, any credits that you haven't used will be donated to the grid to low-income customers. So that's really important to size your system based on your consumption. So you're able to produce enough solar to meet your consumption, but not have so much extra that you end up not using those credits. So that's something to keep in mind. If you want to dig a little deeper into how solar and storage work, we cover this in more detail in our How to Go Solar and Storage workshop, which is every month virtually. We also do those in person as well, occasionally if a community would like to bring us in to do those. So like I mentioned, your system size is going to be based on consumption and how much energy you use, how much space you have available. And the average size solar system in our state is about 8 kilowatts. And that is what systems are measured in kilowatts, abbreviated kW. And so when you are meeting with a contractor or looking to go solar, the contractor will look at your energy consumption and also have a discussion with you about what you're looking to do with your solar. They might ask you questions of like, are you planning to add an EV or battery storage? So they can help design a system that meets your needs but doesn't exceed your needs. The reasons that costs can vary for solar and storage as well. If you decide to add battery storage, is the system design and size, re-roofing and electrical upgrades, if those are needed, can impact that. If you install storage later, what incentives you're able to access. We'll just touch really briefly in this presentation on incentives. And then also your interconnection. So if you're a grid-tied system, you also have to interconnect to the utility, and there's an application and fee for that as well. So differences in system production, when you get quotes from contractors, we always recommend getting at least 3 if you're able. If you live in more rural parts of the state, you might have less contractors that serve that area, but trying to get at least a few quotes so that you can compare what's being offered and at what cost is really going to help you as you decide what contractor to select. Some things you're going to want to look at in the design of your system is how many watts are included in your system. So we mentioned earlier that the average size is about 8 kW or 8 kilowatts. And so you can also calculate your cost per watt by dividing the total cost of the watt capacity by the watt capacity. So if you have an 8 kilowatt system, that's 8,000 watts. So you would take the cost that's quoted there on your solar quote and divide that by your watt capacity. So in that 8 kilowatt example, you would take the cost and divide it by 8,000, and then you could see your cost per watt. Also, on your quote, there is usually a production estimate, so you'd want to look at that as well. There are also some third-party calculators that you can look at to see how much solar resource your site gets. They often use satellite software to do this. These are estimates, right? Because oftentimes they don't take into consideration the rising cost of electricity. So just keep that in mind. We're going to dig a little deeper now into elements on a quote. So you'll see on the quote what type of equipment, so brands, and also if it includes solar, what type of inverters, if they're inverters or microinverters, as well as if you are including solar home battery storage with your solar, you would see that as well. So really just looking at what equipment is included on the quotes, and also the brands can impact the cost. So looking at the brands and capacities. So different batteries will have different capacities or sizes, and batteries are measured in kWh or kilowatt hours. So really comparing that is going to be one of the first things you'll look at. Also, sometimes there are adders on a quote for additional things that you might want added to your solar system, and also the warranties and maintenance. You'll want to look at that in the quote. For the technology that's in your system, knowing what brands are included, if it's a new technology, for example, if you opt to do solar shingles or solar roof tiles, those are often more expensive than standard solar panels. Or if you decide to swap out your electrical panel with a smart electric panel, that would be a higher cost. Seeing if there's DC optimizers, and really just taking a deep dive into the technology that you have included. When you work with a contractor, they should be open to hearing your questions and help kind of guide you through what they've included on the quote. We talked about adders that might be on there. And so some examples of adders would be batteries, EV chargers, electrical upgrades, and then critter guards. If they need to do any structural supports in order to accommodate installing the solar, you'll want to look at if that is included on the quote. When you're digging deeper into warranties, there's usually a few types of warranties, and one's like a contractor or workmanship warranty. Another is the manufacturer warranty for those specific items. Warranties are around 20 to 25 years for solar panels. And for inverters, it's about 10 to 15 years. And it's about 10 to 15 years for batteries for these manufacturer warranties. And this depends on what brands you use, as these equipment warranties can vary based on manufacturer. Solar installers often provide a warranty for their labor and services. And so the industry standard for workmanship warranties is about 5 to 10 years. So taking a look at what that is on your quote is going to help you navigate as you compare quotes. Important to work with a reputable contractor. Uh, be sure to ask what the warranties are for your system and what's covered under the warranties. And then Energy Trust Trade Allies provide at least 2-year system warranties that cover the labor for any repairs. And so Energy Trust is a good place to check for finding those reputable contractors. And like we put in earlier, there's that link in the chat if you haven't already connected with a Trade Ally contractor. Some key elements in a quote that you might see is the inverter, the manufacturer's inverter, if there's optimizers, what type of monitoring is included for your system. There are some monitoring systems that have apps, so you can see how your system is doing right on an app on your phone. And then you do have to have network availability for attaching some of these monitoring systems. Warranties will be listed on your quote. Also the modules that are used, if you're getting different modules, and they'll have information about those and materials warranties as well. So just taking the time to see what the design includes and really taking time to compare and ask those questions is going to help you with your system down the line. Because solar and battery storage entail a large upfront cost, many homeowners utilize financing. Some solar installers offer financing options. If you have access to other financing through your bank or your credit union, you'll want to compare that financing option as well. But some banks and credit unions don't have a package that's tailored for solar. So you already have a relationship with your bank and credit union, so it's a good place to start and just see what they have available. And then you can see what your solar installer offers as well. So you can get loans or leases. Note that as with any major financial decision, that you want to take your time in reviewing the terms and looking carefully at the contracts before you sign. If you do a financing agreement, you want to make sure to look at the fees, payment structure, payback time, and make sure that you're comparing those. As with any way that you decide to finance your solar, looking at the timeline is going to be important as well. And there is sometimes opportunities to refinance. So making sure to ask those questions. Dealer fees are another type of fee that could be listed on financing, and sometimes those are very high. So asking if there's any dealer fees involved is important. And so we talked a little bit about these, but this is just a reminder. for loans, you want to check and see if there's what the interest rate is it fixed or variable, are there dealer fees or early payment penalties, or refinancing options, and then you can also ask who services the loan. We dive a little deeper into incentives in our basic solar and storage workshop, but just want to reshare the current incentives here. As I'm sure many of you have heard, right now there's a reconciliation bill that went through the House and also the Senate to get approved in the Senate, and now it's back at the House for approval on the changes that the Senate made. And so in that current draft, the federal solar investment tax credit would end at the end of this year. In our state, Energy Trust offers a standard incentive for solar and storage for PGE and Pacific Power customers. And so you can see what that is here. They also have an additional income qualified incentive for solar and storage, and you can check on their website to see if you're eligible. So I'll just go ahead and re-put those links in the chat. There's a link to Energy Trust Solar Bid Tool, as well as to Solar Within Reach, which is their additional income qualified incentives for solar and storage. We're going to take a look at some example quotes so you can see what it might look like. Here's two different examples of how a cost breakdown might look on your quote. So it'll show the system size. Sometimes it'll even show you what they calculate the dollar per watt to be. So you can see that there. Here is another example of two different quotes and how they show the cost breakdown. So showing you your out-of-pocket cost for the system, then if they offer any discount, or if you're able to access the Energy Trust incentives or Energy Trust income qualified incentives. They may list that out and then show you your out of pocket after those incentives, as the Energy Trust incentives would be applied for by your Energy Trust Trade Ally contractor and taken off your out of pocket cost. And then currently with the federal tax credit, it's 30% of your cost. So it might show that as well. You'll also see a materials breakdown in your quote. So they'll show the system specs, what modules are used. And then this is an example of how a quote might show your financing breakdown. And so in this example, they decided to get a loan for the solar, and it breaks out that initial monthly loan payment and then the reamortized monthly loan payment. So that is something to look at, is how much, if you decide to get a loan for solar, you would pay per month. Finding a contractor. As there's many solar companies currently, it's good to find a reputable contractor to work with. And you can also look at like company culture, if that's something that's important to you, to see if you want to support a local company, a larger company or smaller company. Looking at their years in business is also really helpful as you select a contractor. When you are looking at contractors, if they have been around longer, that could be helpful. So that way, if you need help with your system, hopefully they'll still continue to be around so that you can reach out to them for any troubleshooting. You can also look at reviews, testimonials, references, online reviews as you compare these different contractors. And we mentioned the Trade Ally Network. That's a credential to the Energy Trust of Oregon. There's also Better Business Bureau you can look at. And then sometimes there are beliefs and values centered certifications such as B Corps and other certifications like that. So you can also look into that as you're comparing contractors. with there being so many different contractors out there, as with any type of contractor that you hire to do work on your home, you want to keep an eye out for things like people saying that solar is free. Solar is not free to install. So just keeping an eye out if a company is saying solar is free, maybe they're not the most reputable company. And so just really taking the time to review your contractor options as you would with any home project. And then besides offering incentives for solar, um, Energy Trust does have the Trade Ally Network, where they pre-vet contractors, um, and oftentimes these contractors are local, highly rated, and are the only contractors who can offer the Energy Trust solar and storage incentives. So we recommend working with a reputable contractor, as well as comparing at least 3 quotes if you're able. That is just the basics there. If you have any questions, please drop those in the chat right now. I'm going to launch our last poll just to see how we did today, sharing the info about reviewing quotes, and then we'll jump right into the Q&A. Great, thank you. And that poll. And then we'll jump right into the questions. As I look at the questions, I'm going to just put up that link to the bid request tool, just in case you haven't gotten any quotes yet. This is a good place to start. So I'll just go ahead and leave that up while I check out the Q&A. Yes. So great question, Karen. You've gotten some quotes, and you might have some other questions that we haven't reviewed here today. If you think of any other questions, you can ask them here, or you can email us at info@solaroregon.org, and that link is in the chat, but I'll just repost it for everybody. But we appreciate you all attending today, and we hope to see you at a future event. Thank you.